First of all, Carol, myself, and Abby are so excited to have you here on this trip with us. And we're gonna, normally in these pre-departures, we start right away getting to know each other, and we're gonna do that today. But we have these lovely visitors with us who are gonna help talk to us about what you all will need to do in terms of getting your immunizations up to date. So pause on getting to know each other. We're going to get to that, but we're going to start with talking about the immunizations that you all should be thinking about now in order to go to Senegal. So I'm going to introduce our partners at Campus Health.
Hi, I'm Debbie Applebaum. I've been in Campus Health for a long time. Did a lot of travel clinic work, and I'm so excited that we're traveling again. 2 years of no travel clinic patients. I'm very happy now that y'all are going on this trip. But I have a few questions first. Are y'all all undergrads? And what is the purpose of the trip? What are you going to be doing there?
They're doing a study abroad program for 2 weeks. And so they're going to be taking classes. They're pretty much going to be in the city. So they're in Dakar and then they're in Senegal.
Okay. Living in a dormitory?
They're living with families.
With families, okay. And are you gonna be doing are you taking classes living with families? So it's not like a medical mission or anything like that, or but you will have close exposure to local people because you live in their homes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me start with talking about how you make an appointment in the travel clinic. Log into the patient portal, and I believe under forms there is a travel clinic request. Fill that out, just ask your name and phone number, the date of your departure, where you're going. And it says a nurse will contact you within 3 days to make an appointment. Then you'll come into the appointment with the nurse, and we will look over your whole vaccine history, like hepatitis A. You probably have had that as a child. Most kids your age have had Hep A's and Hep B's in childhood. But if you would need one, we can give it to you at the clinic. Yellow fever, we are expecting our yellow fever shipment in about a week. That's really good news. We haven't been able to get it for several years. There was like a nationwide shortage, but it's back. Typhoid, same thing. We can do the typhoid vaccine in the clinic. And you will definitely need malaria prophylaxis, because if you look at the malaria map of Senegal, it is all malaria, except for this area along this river. And where are y'all going to be? Dakar.
We're going to be in Dakar and Senegal.
Oh, so you're going to be going to, okay. Yeah, y'all need malaria prophylaxis, which is a pill, a well-tolerated pill that you'll start a couple days before you get there. And every day that you're there, you take a pill, and then for about a week after you leave.
Question, yeah.
In regards to like costs for the
We bill your insurance, your health insurance for everything. Now, I have to say, sometimes health insurance companies will not want to pay for travel-related costs. So you might want to find out from them.
So in terms of cost, what one should do is check with your insurance. So you guys have your student insurance card, and you can call that number on your student insurance card and say you're going on a study abroad program. What's my copay going to be? I need to get a yellow fever vaccine. I think for most of you, it's going to be a yellow fever vaccine and the prophylactic malaria medication. That'll be the two things.
And typhoid.
And typhoid. And typhoid that you'll have to get.
And no, there's something else. Polio. They need an adult polio shot.
It's not on there.
It's not on the list?
No, it was not on the list. Well,
I mean, where do you get your list?
we're provided a list by the program provider, but works with us, and these are the ones that we were provided, based on where we're going. But a lot of, maybe they already have them, or no?
Childhood goal. Yeah, I mean, you know, we can only recommend.
Yeah, so these are recommendations
Yeah.
for your shots. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's some information about goals. So, yeah, I'm sure they've all had the childhood goals. But one goal. But then, again, if you redefine, it's, you know, you don't even know. You know, we
Right.
gotta
Right. So
weigh the risks and the
Right.
costs.
So what you all are getting are recommendations for vaccinations needed. And we're gonna give you handouts that'll give you really detailed instructions for Senegal on all the needed vaccinations. And at the end of the day, these are personal decisions that one makes to a certain extent, but we're highly, highly recommending the ones on this list. And so what you wanna do is call your insurance if you're confused. I think, so Carol, can you remember? I think it was about $300 last group we went
For the
yellow fever.
yellow fever and
malaria.
malaria.
I think that's about what people are looking at, yeah.
Okay, so I guess my question then becomes, in regards to this conversation, does payment, like does immunization payments fall under that?
No, it doesn't. So this immunization is up beyond your scholarship payment. So there are two options that we're gonna talk about. As it's billed onto your account, right? So that it goes onto your Tulane account, which means you can pay this your whole time that you're at Tulane. It just is a fee that you have to at some point pay, right?
Accounts
On
receivable.
accounts receivable. The other is the Center for Academic Equity has this fund that is for meeting demands when students have a fee that they're unable to pay that are these kind of these short chunk fees. And so once you figure out what the cost is that you're looking at, you can decide what might be the best course of action. So what we do want to start with talking about this right now at the first pre-departure, so that you guys start thinking about getting the immunizations that you need to plan. Yeah.
I noticed that like we could get the shots when we come to the travel clinic. Can we get the COVID booster shot too, or do we need to do that through the Tulane?
Through Tulane. Now, we don't have any COVID vaccines at Camp South. It's given here at the LBC, right, or at Walgreens or CVS. Are y'all all full-time undergrads?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So you've already been automatically assessed student health center fee, so you won't have to worry about that. But we bill all of our appointments down to health insurance.
And you don't have a sense of the total cost? I mean, it would just really depend on their type of insurance, right?
So if the first insurance doesn't have it, you have another insurance, do you then go
Oh.
on and follow up, like they take the rest?
I guess so. If we have both of your insurance cards on file.
I think you only have my student one, but my mom has two, which I.
Wait, so you have you have the T-SHIP insurance through Tulane?
Yeah,
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fabulous, because they pay.
okay.
We know the T-SHIP pays for everything. We have it in our contract with T-SHIP. We must pay for travel related because so many of our students travel.
So if we have T-shirt, we don't need to call to make sure.
Correct. If you have T-SHIP, yes.
So is that like copay too, or we have a copay, we don't have to pay like the full cost of it?
No, there's a code. I mean, we never collect money from students at the desk. I don't know about copays. I really don't.
So, but T-SHIP does cover all
T-SHIP
travel
covers,
related insurance. Vaccinations. Most of you are likely on T-SHIP as undergrads, so.
Unless you're on, unless you're on, you know, your parents will draw us or Aetna or.
Yeah, what about Medicaid?
We are not a Medicaid provider, so Medicaid does not pay us anything. So we could, we can help you find your Medicaid provider, it's usually on your card. Or maybe, we could call around and see if like, sometimes Walmart has a typhoid or Walgreens or other places like that. But we'll work with you and see what we can do.
Any other immunization questions? Yeah.
So how do we make an appointment for this on the campus, the patient portal?
The first thing you do is fill out the travel clinic request, which is a form in the patient portal.
Okay.
And that will go to our little list that we all monitor every day. And we will call you as soon as we see you in the queue and we'll set up the appointment with us. Then, after we give you all of this good information and the vaccines, then you have to have an appointment that we will make for you with one of our providers to get the prescription for the malaria prophylaxis and any other prescriptions you may need, like especially something for traveler's diarrhea or any other specific thing that you might need for yourself.
And this is like we sit down with you and talk about what those need. Then, or we do a separate one, like you said.
No, we'll give you the education and vaccines in the same appointment.
And all of these vaccines can be taken at the same time.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, like I said, you probably already had hepatitis A in your childhood. So we'll be giving you the yellow fever and the typhoid.
You might not know this, but do typhoid shots expire?
Yes.
Okay.
They last for 2 years.
Oh.
The immunity lasts for 2 years.
Never mind. I'll do that one again.
Now, there's an oral preparation of typhoid, which is unfortunately, nobody can get it because of supply chain. It comes from one lab in Switzerland. And that immunity lasts for 5 years. So it's really advantageous to take the pills if you can get it.
I took my fingers ago.
We also have faculty and staff traveling with us. Are they allowed to use the travel clinics just for students?
No, it's just a student. I think that there's somewhere, passport out.
Yeah.
It's called passport out.
All right, any other immunization questions? We're gonna keep looping back to health. But any questions while we have the nurses here?
So for the prophylaxis, do you think T-shirt will help cover any of that, or is that?
The malaria,
Yeah.
medicine, oh, yeah,
Is
oh,
it
absolutely.
all of it too, or?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it can, oh, yeah.
So are we gonna be, like, meeting in our appointments during the semester?
You wanna do it right away? You
Sure.
wanna-
Yeah.
I would recommend that you guys, when we get off of this meeting or tomorrow, you go ahead and make your appointment. Because you guys have 2 weeks in the semester. It might take a little bit for the turnaround. So go ahead and get an appointment on the books.
Yeah, because we have 2 other big trips going too, that those students are making appointments as well. One's going to Panama, one's going to Ecuador.
And also, we order our vaccine based upon you guys filling those
Oh,
forms
right,
out.
right.
So it's kind of like supply and demand kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we need you to submit those forms because that's how I base my ordering. of
Ordering,
vaccine.
yeah.
Are the forms that was emailed to us we got an email, I think?
That's different. That's
Okay.
another type of form.
Okay.
Yeah, what you're hearing about travel clinic forms is specific to what you're hearing right now. So first time for it.
Okay.
Y'all want to talk about anything else, or?
I think that is good for today.
Okay.
We won't overload them, but we'll, yeah.
Sorry. So back to, the typhoid thing. That's a definite.
Yeah.
Okay. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the 2 big things you gotta worry about, that we gotta prepare for and think about when you're traveling abroad is food and water precautions, which we will talk about in detail in your appointments, and mosquito repellent. There's lots of different illnesses that can get you from bugs that bite you. So you're gonna try and wear long sleeves and long pants as often as you can. Mosquito repellent, 30% DEET, reapply. Hopefully you'll have a mosquito net in your bedroom at night, or you take it with you. As the malaria mosquitoes bite at night, and the dengue fever mosquitoes bite in the daytime. So you gotta be 24/7.
Is the prophylaxis like the only option for the malaria? I've taken malaria medication,
Yeah.
and I don't know what it was, but every time I took it, I threw up, so I had to stop taking it in the middle of my second broad trip. So I didn't know if that was it. Yeah.
Well, can you find out what that was that you took?
I can try. It was
And
like 6 years ago.
Tell us, where did you go?
I went to India.
Fucking hell, it's so pretty.
I don't know, the other thing I think, you have antibiotics for diarrhea, and that was one of the, I remember a couple students got sick just because they could get all that. So I
Oh,
don't know if
yes,
it's,
you can get travelers diarrhea in Cancun.
Right.
But, and you will have an appointment, you will have a prescription for that. But typhoid diarrhea is a whole different ballgame.
I don't want any of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
typhoid is bad.
All right, any questions right now while we have the nurses? We're gonna give you time to let this sink in. Like I said, when you guys make the appointment, they're gonna sit you down, they'll walk through all of the information. They have some packets, which I'll put on your Canvas page, which will get created for you all, and then we can just kind of circulate it now for you to look at. And we will continually be talking about health today and in our next, and when we're on site. So we're gonna keep you healthy and safe. You're going on a very controlled program, but yes, mosquitoes bite. Yes, we have to take the proper precautions. So you have a face with names. These lovely women you will meet when you go to the Tulane Travel Clinic. And we appreciate your time on
You're welcome.
evening.
Thank you. All right, you want to keep these?
Sure. All right, so we're gonna start at the top now. So we have these info pages that'll be floating around. And you'll get your own copy too, but if you want to take a quick look. To begin with, we all are excited. Thank you guys. Yes. Just to be here, it's been a long time since we've been with groups traveling, so we're all excited. So we'll start with some introductions and get a chance to meet each other. So my name is Amy Gibson. I am the Director of Office of Study Abroad. I work in the Center for Global Education. I have traveled to a lot of different places. When I was your age, my times abroad were mostly in Latin America, in Brazil and in Cuba and in Argentina. I spent a lot of time, but now because of my work and just because how much I love travel, I've been to a lot of different places. I love working with students. I love working with students in experiential learning opportunities like this, when you are learning material that's not just in the classroom, but you're actually seeing it, you're feeling it, you're touching it, you're talking to someone, right? That's, I think, what really makes the difference. So I really feel passionate about this work. Carol and I have been working together and have been friends for a really long time. I'm a dancer as well, and she has taught me so much and mentored me so much in that world, and learning about Brazilian dance together, and learning about our friendship has grown in many different countries at this point and here in New Orleans. So that's a little bit about me, but you're going to learn a lot about me over the course. So I'll open it up to Carol.
I'm Carolyn Barber, Assistant Deacon for Students and Director of the Center for Intercultural.
The Carolyn Park here.
Yeah, that too. So,
Well, I'll take it from Laura. I got
I am also an adjunct in the dance department, as Annie says. I teach Brazilian dance. My husband and I have a group called Casa Samba for the last 35 years of presenting New Orleans regional audiences, traditional Brazilian dance and folk arts. It has been my dream. I never had a chance to go as a first gen college student to go abroad. Just didn't have money. The school I went to didn't have a program. And then I was really, as I've worked with students of color, other marginalized students over the years, I started to notice that we weren't going abroad. People were from weren't in any kind of significant numbers. So Annie and I have been talking about doing some programs. I got the itch probably in 1988 when we started to bring a series of speakers who focus on the African diaspora. And we talked about race civilization. So the first place I've ever gone to was Egypt. I took 25 students and 2 faculty, and we spent 17 days going from Cairo all the way down to Aswan. An amazing, amazing trip. It was transformative for our students to see culture. So that kind of was my travel book. Then I had a chance to go to South Africa with a faculty person here. We were trying to figure out right after Katrina of how we could set up an international service learning trip, looking at apartheid connection with slavery and the American South African experience, and that was amazing. Then Annie and I got to talking, about how do we get more students to go. We decided that we would create, and I talked to students, so some of them can't go for a whole year, so we couldn't go for a semester, but to create kind of a pilot program that would get students hungry to have more of a national experience, but also to tie it into law. So we decided to create a program that would look at those diasporic countries that are connected to New Orleans. So Senegal was our first because that's where most of the enslaved Africans were brought from the Senegambia region, either into Haiti or directly into the United States, or from that region. So you gotta understand the transatlantic slave trade to understand what has transpired in the New World here in the States. So that was our first year, 17.
Yep.
17. And then in 18, we decided to go. We wanted to go to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and unfortunately, we couldn't get into Haiti. We did go to the border. We did have a lot of interactions with patients. But that was transformative as well. Haiti, as you know, if you do a lot of research of where enslaved Africans came into New Orleans, they came to Haiti. So having that connection in the Dominican Republic, to be on an island with 2 different countries and to be able to see the differences in the way they live and cultural habits and all kinds of things, and the politics between the 2 countries. That was the most fascinating part of that. And then in 2019, we had the opportunity to look at Mardi Gras and see 2 carnival cities. We went to both Rio and to Salvador. Were an amazing trip. So we tried to do this again. You know, Senegal to me was critical in that we have a starting point and to be able to go back. I'm excited.
Yeah, so, so that's a little bit about your leaders, and just that you have the benefit on this particular trip. There's a lot of interest in this program model, and through that, we are so lucky. We're going to have 2 other people visiting who will be with us in this journey and learning with us, and we are learning from them. One of them is Professor Mia Bagneris, who is the Director of Africana Studies, who is not here tonight, but you will meet her. And the other is Abby Mumbaye, and I will let Abby give a short introduction to herself. She was also a student on this program.
My name is Abby. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I work at the Korean American Center for Cultural Knowledge.
Abby, will you talk a little louder because we're trying to pick you up in the
I'm sorry.
online.
Yeah, I went to Tulane for undergrad and graduate school, and I was one of the first people to go on the Senegal trip the first time that we had it. It was a great experience for me, but I got to go back home. My family is Senegalese, and that's where I was raised, and so it was a really great experience, and I'm happy to be going again with you all.
So she'll be able to teach you a lot through this as well. So on the board here is a quote from a student who studied abroad in Senegal this semester before everything shut down with COVID. But it's interesting for us to think about. I thought I knew what it means to miss New Orleans, but it turns out I recognize the links between NOLA and Dakar everywhere I turn. So she was talking about how, she was away from New Orleans, but this is something that we will feel and we will talk about on this trip. What are these cultural connections? So today's agenda, we're going to meet the group. We're going to talk about some of the intercultural preparation that we all need to do to kind of shift to enter into this intense experience that we'll have for 2 weeks. We'll talk a little bit about the logistics of the course you'll take. We'll talk a little bit more about logistics of travel and enrollment documents. So these emails that you've been receiving and what you should be doing now, and some basic Senegal preparation advice. So, yes, question?
No, I'm stressing, I'm sorry.
What time do you think we'll be?
What time? Let me get. Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to get it done by 5. But let's the vaccines took longer than I thought, but it's important information. So we're gonna take 2 minutes for you to turn to someone near you, and I'd like you to do introductions. So see on the board, take a look, and introduce yourself to someone you don't know. So if you know the person you're sitting next to, find somebody new.
Let's see, my name is Justin Bertley. I use the just pronouns is political science, social work.
How do you describe it? That's fair.
I would encourage.
I'm a sophomore and I'm
All right, I'm gonna close it up. I know we're saying a lot, but we're gonna do more next week, but I want to make sure I'm conscious of your time. So I'm gonna have you introduce the person beside you and just tell me one interesting thing that you learned about that person. So I'm gonna
Okay, well, this is Justin. Okay, let's see, about Justin. We both had a very terrible professor. And it's so awkward and weird that we know about the exact same crazy situation to why our teachers started being our teacher. That's amazing. And it's funny.
All right, go on, experience.
This is Marnisha. They are a freshman, and now they're studying sociology and social policy and practice.
Excellent, wonderful.
That's Alexa, and she's interested in going to Senegal to know about like the politics, basically their government.
Oh, sorry, this is my partner Maya. Maya is interested in going to Senegal to learn more about their culinary culture. Also, Maya came here to learn about culinary medicine, which I think school is another thing.
This is Alani. She is a transfer student. She's a senior studying.
This is Olivia, and she is also an Africanic Studies and International Studies major, and has been to Ghana before, and does most of her studies.
Great. What do you know about Andy? I won't put you guys on the spot. We'll come back. Okay.
Yeah, okay. You wanna do it like okay. This is Brandy. And Brandy is interested in going to Senegal, because she speaks French and she's been to France and she yearns to learn more about Francophone countries, but within the diaspora to have something a little more similar to her cultural life.
She's a freshman, which I probably know.
Me too. I didn't think you were a freshman.
So, yeah, she's studying, she's doing the public health, medical health. And so she never has traveled before, so she wanted to travel.
This is Anaya, and she is fluent in French. She's sort of.
I didn't know that actually scared me as well. So I'm sorry, everyone. Oh. Wow.
Okay, so this is Mel. I think we already knew each other, because it's not weird for them to start there. But what I learned about him is that we kind of have the same like idea of how sometimes it can be difficult as Black people to like describe what our cultural identity is, because we're not always fortunate enough to know like, oh, my family's from this specific part of Africa or anything like that. So it's kind of cool to realize that like, probably we don't want to know that way.
I don't know. She studied around India in high school, and she studied like social justice and like, traditional medicine, so
Cool. I have the traditional medicines thing going on. Awesome. Very good. So we're going to have a lot more of this as we go along. But you guys, as we start to talk about this, one of the things that this program really explores is for us to think about getting to the root of all of the different things that make up culture and the different ways that we define ourselves or are defined by others, and what that means to navigate in different settings in different places. So when we talk about culture, we often think about these outward facing elements, right? These things that we can see. I'm wearing a dress that I got when I was in Senegal the last time. We can talk about the language that we speak. We can talk about these practices, these customs, these roles, right? And each of these things that we put on outwardly, there's a way that they're interpreted, right? There's a way that we interpret it. There's a way that others interpret us when we do those things. And so we'll be thinking about those visual aspects of culture. And then going deep, right? Thinking about what are those below the iceberg elements of culture. So those things that we put on the top are these things that we see. And I know that this particular group of students, you guys were particularly chosen because you have done this kind of work before. You have thought about this stuff. You are thoughtful about thinking about what are those places that are below the iceberg, right? What are the values behind it? And those are the places where we are really going to challenge you on this trip. So yes, we're going to see all of the beautiful things that Senegal has to offer in terms of its culinary practices, in terms of its music, its art, its dance, its clothing. But what we also are going to do is really push you to think about the values, your value system, other value system, between our group and between others, where we might see things different. So it's very, usually you'll see that getting along is easy when we start to have similar values, and we see this sort of core humanity in people. But those moments when things start to rub up, right? When core humanity actually, there are real differences in the ways that we exist, right? That's when it can become hard. And so this trip is not always going to be easy. There are going to be real moments where you're going to feel scared or overwhelmed, not scared for your physical life, but just sort of overwhelmed with the things that you're learning and doing. Sorry, I shouldn't start like that. But that we do hope to get you out of your comfort zone and think about these things. So I'm not going to go too far into this, but this program is a developmental program. So it really is taking a group of students who we believe have the ability to engage deeply and are in a place in their student lives and in their upcoming professional lives to truly make a difference, and to provide opportunities to move along a developmental model, right? And so just visually to you, one way to look at the intercultural development inventory as an example, the continuum of this is, when you start in these monocultural mindsets, and you are viewing from perspectives of your own self, right? Your own ways of understanding. And at the beginning, it might be an aspect of, observing someone and not realizing at all that culture even exists in that interaction. You just think that person is really shy, or that person is really loud, or not really seeing that there might be a cultural component, or just coming to a place where you start making judgments like, oh man, I don't like the way that they do that, or I do it better here, or they do it better here. All of those are these kind of monocultural mindsets where your point of view is the place of reference. To moving into what we consider to be more intercultural, where you're seeing these diverse differences. And rather than placing judgment, you're able to hold complexity at the same time. So that was really fast way to talk about that, but this is something that we're going to continue to look at. So how do we have these intense emotions of, going to a country where in all settings, it might not be okay to express if I am LGBTQ. That might not always be safe for my safety. And that bothers me because I've spent my whole life trying to become open about it. But how do we hold these complex conversations around topics like that aren't easy, right? It's easy until it gets really hard, right? Until it really rubs up against us. And so those are the type of things that we're going to be doing. Practice shifting perspectives. There are always more than one ways to view things. Have you guys seen this visual before? Yeah.
Yeah, so going back to that whole
Yes.
open thing.
Right.
The
whole back row.
Yes.
So are we good? Or
You are-
should we keep that in?
You are so good.
Okay.
At the same time, we're going to talk it is important to have a really, an understanding of where you are and with who you are, in terms of expressing your identity. So in any of the places that you are going with us, you are good, you are safe. Everyone is in agreement of you know, the conversations are on the table. There are different rules and regulations around and ways in which people talk about these things. So you might hear comments that just don't feel good to you all the time in certain settings. And so that is something like figuring out how to kind of have the support to think about that and think about what that means for you and your identity and what that means for you in terms of thinking about how you relate to that person in that space. But you're not going to be unsafe because of that. However, there are certain ways that you might perform your identity. There are just some things to think about. So thinking culturally, and that goes for anything. So as a woman, for example, I shouldn't go around in this shirt. This is a gender identity thing, but it's just being conscious about what are the ways that it's okay to behave or not behave in a particular cultural context. Yeah.
Yeah, not to speak to that, there's a podcast called the Afro Podcast, and it talks a lot about that. The Afro Queer Podcast. It speaks a lot about LGBTQ plus issues in the African context.
Cool. Abby's making a WhatsApp group for us. Have you gotten it together yet?
I can collect his phone number, but I'll just.
Awesome. So that's something we can share that research on that WhatsApp. That would be great. So shifting perspectives. Who can see the young woman? You guys see a young woman? Do you see an old woman?
See a young woman and a bunny.
You see a duck and a bunny?
Yeah, me too. A young
Oh, you mean the literal person? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the duck, you saw the duck, right? You saw the bunny. All right, the young woman, that's her nose and that's her chin.
Yeah.
And then the old woman, that's her nose and that's her chin.
I see. Oh.
Yeah. So,
I
yeah, so visually, just visually to think about.
Like the nose, like she's got something over her head.
Yeah.
Like
the
nose. And her chin.
Her chin is elongated.
Yeah, her chin is long. You don't see it.
Yeah, so we have to kind of shift our perspectives and shift what we think about in the different places that we go. So mental preparation, what are you most excited about? What are you worried about? What do you hope to experience? Let me hear it, so rather than breaking you guys up. Yes.
I want really personal experiences with the people that I will be around, because I think when I studied abroad in Chile, like my most memorable experience was literally talking to a man security before he came back with sugar because he wanted to learn about the U.S. And his anecdotal experience about Chilean history and like how our government has impacted them was really eye-opening.
I think mine's that. I want to learn how to. With their side.
Get you to the market, pick them all up and bring them home.
Yeah.
I'm excited about learning like new languages because when I was in India, I learned Tibetan and Hindi, but I actually have like a Spanish background, so it's just interesting to like see like all that. Something I'm nervous about is the homestay aspect. I travel a lot, but something I've never done is I like my space. I'll say it like that. And like when I travel, I usually will get like a hotel or like a place where I'm by myself or with my mom or something like that. So that's something I've been nervous about, not necessarily worried because I know that we're in good hands, but just for me personally, I like wondering how I'm gonna adapt.
I can say attest to it too. Like it's not even my first time being like a home kind of thing, but at the same time, it's like you're in somebody else's space and it's like how do you interact? It's like a really intimate space. So it's real.
I think what I'm most interested in learning about, so this is like I've done more research about myself, not gonna lie. But my family name is Lori, as I shared with you, and so just wondering if there's any connection there. I mean, clearly there probably is. But yeah, because I know that we're gonna maybe assess some other people over time. So just figuring out like what the connection I would have to my family exactly and seeing if my family knows maybe else about it, because there's literally one guy in my family sure a lot of my friends in California, some that I know is in California, but like he doesn't even live there, so it's not really accessible. So I don't really know our connection on that well. So
Anything else? Anyone wants to voice out there? So I heard all of those things, and all of those things will definitely happen on the course of this trip, I promise. In terms of the homestay experience, let's go, I'm gonna go a couple of things to our logistics here. So you guys, one of the emails I sent you has all of these documents to fill out for SIT. One of the, so SIT, there are on the ground resources there. They're who are gonna connect with local students, who are gonna connect us with local professors, who are gonna help us with logistics on the ground. And they're gonna set up your homestay. They have a really great network of homestay families. And one of the documents that you all are gonna do is in preparation for that. To kind of talk about what are the things that you are looking for? What do you need in your homestay family? So you really need your own space. That's really important to you, to have space where you can decompress and be alone. You like you want to meet young people your age, so you want to meet kids, or it really bothers you if people are smoking. So these kind of things, you guys are gonna have a chance to do that. In general, you guys will be doubled up in two. And so that could also be a time that if there's a certain person that you know that you want to be doubled up with, you could think about it at that moment. But in general, they're really going to do a good job of placing you. If there are ever any issues of it too, we can work. You'll have me, you'll have Miss Carol, you'll have staff, and we're going to have really regular check-ins about your families just to make sure that things are going okay for you. So
We have a question.
yes.
I never really had to live with anyone. Like, how do I know what I don't want? Like, you just said smoking. I was like, yeah, I don't want that. I never been someone to like, I never had to deal with that. So
Think about public spaces and what you don't like about public spaces. Or like your roommate situation.
I was gonna say your housing after.
But you also have to realize that we're not American. So, and if you've never, I don't know if you said term, but, yeah, things are very different. Yeah, the comforts of home, sometimes Americans, a lot of students just don't think about that, and I think they need to.
So you want to be as flexible as possible, but do think about those things to give it the best shot to get to know you too. So that's really it is. It's, you're going to write, I think, a letter that asks you to write a letter to your homestay family, for example, to get to meet them. So, what would you want to tell them about yourself, as an example? But the basic things, just like think about your roommate. If it really bothers you, if they're up late listening to music, you really need your downtime, and that's important. Or if you have any health issues or food issues that you need to be sure about. If you want to be sure that you're with a family that could teach you about culinary traditions, you would do that. Or if you want to be sure that there's a family that you could tell you about what is it like to navigate Senegal as an LGBTQ person. Like those are things that you could put that is of particular interest. Now it's not 100% to say like that's exactly what you're going to get, but we know that that's of interest to you, and we can try to place you as best as possible. So you guys have about a week to finish to fill out those documents, and you'll upload them to that Dropbox. So please pay attention to that email about that. And the homestay is always one of the places that causes the most sense of anxiety. It's also the place where students end up enjoying the most time. Yeah. Yes, question back there.
One thing I do want to say is like when you're writing your homestay letter, I found it useful to, if you have a sense of humor, include your sense of humor. Like if there are certain things about you that you think are a little quirky or something like that, like you can talk about that. Because it does help like your potential homestay parents like get a sense for who you are and feel more comfortable opening up their home to you as well. So those like useful things to consider.
Yes. And we'll talk more about that, but the homestay, it's gonna be great. You guys are gonna love it. And as Ms. Carolyn brings up, this reminding yourself that things are going to be different, right? And the natural ups and downs, and this wave of culture shock. You're gonna have days, and especially with the intensity of the program, where you're just kind of like overwhelmed by everything. We were talking about your wall up French and not completely understanding. And you feel like you didn't get enough sleep because you're jet lagged, and you're trying to do your assignment while also, trying to navigate the street, and you're feeling uncomfortable and out of place. All of those things might be a low, but then just remember, it comes back up. It's kind of, it's a consistent. Me? Oh, shoot. Thank you. Sorry, person. That was my boss. She'll get it. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so some expectations are that you guys are always present with us as a group. And while we're on this course, it's intense. We're going to have debrief sessions and class time sessions. We're also going to be doing experiential learning stuff. You all are to be present for all of those. Of course, if you're sick, we're going to work with people, but you're to be on time for all of those things. Assignments will be turned in. Activities are mandatory. The timing really is important, because we're getting on buses, or you might be, it's not just our staff time, but it's other partners, it's other people that you're keeping waiting, your friends, your things. And we want to challenge and support each other, and then keep a really open line of communication with all of us. And it really is a different experience in a classroom setting, because I'm not just a teacher. Carolyn is not just a teacher. We want to know everything. We want to know if things are going bad, we want to know if you're upset because something at home is not going well back in New Orleans and you're trying to figure it out. We really are people that you can come to, or something's happening in the car that you're excited to go to, and you're nervous. Well, maybe they don't want me to go. I'd rather know where you were going and be able to provide you with some insecurity than for you to not tell me what's happening. I'd also like for us to kind of think about, as a group, what are some expectations that you have for each other in really tough conversations? Yeah.
I would say, like, when we're having like group discussions, especially with other like partners in the bar and stuff like that, kind of thinking about what you're saying, how that could impact somebody else. Because like, just thinking about the last time I studied abroad, there was like public health and like traditional medicine, going to hospitals in other countries. Like, people in my group were saying some pretty mean things that didn't come off as mean, but we actually heard the feelings. They're like, it was kind of making people pretty upset. So just kind of thinking about what that impact could be, and like how we could say something different.
Yeah.
What I've noticed, like when I travel, is that I feel like sometimes because like I'm a Black woman, I don't, like when I enter spaces, I don't have like the same colonial behaviors as some other people, but I feel like just from the American perspective, a lot of the things, like Carolyn was saying, we take for granted and don't realize a lot of those luxuries that we have. And so because of that, we enter spaces with a certain like attitude, which in a lot of scenarios isn't appropriate. So just being very conscious and aware of like a lot of the luxuries that we take advantage of while we're here and going into any space, but especially as we like go into our home stays, just being grateful for the fact that people have opened their homes to us, for the fact that like people are welcoming us to like take part in these activities and a part of their communities, because at the end of the day, this is like their neighborhoods, their houses, their homes, their communities, etc. And it's like, if you have someone saying with you, you want that to be respectful. Just being conscious of that and being mindful of ourselves and being self-aware of what we're saying and how we're interacting with the space that we're in.
I think definitely having those hard conversations with yourself and secret how the U.S. portrays Africa as a continent. For one, they describe it as Africa, like they don't really describe it as a country. For instance, if you go abroad, nobody talks about the entirety of North America. Everybody says, oh, the U.S. or oh, Canada. But like having those hard conversations with yourself to recognize where you're like, where that like, what's the word? The things that you're taught that you don't realize you pick up on, and how that could be wrong when you're going into these different spaces. So for instance, for me at least, like I'm Black, of course, and like growing up, I've heard plenty of stories about like, how prosperous Africa is and things like that. But then I go into school, and I go into 12 years of school and being told there's no water, there's no resources, there's no this, there's no that. People out there are brutal. Like you just hear all these really terrible and negative things to where when you go, like those things are in the back of your mind. So I think recognizing those different things that you have picked up on, like not purposefully, but things that we've been taught and like kind of conditioned to believe. Because when I went to Cape Town, like of course when I went to Cape Town, I was like, well yeah, like it's a regular city, you know? But then also just recognizing those things in the back of my head that I've been taught since I was a kid to believe about Africa, and then like actively as I'm seeing these things, as I'm going to their nightclub, like as I'm going to hike the mountain, I'm going on their trolleys and all their different things out there, just like purposefully and intentionally recognizing the fact that these things directly counteract the things that I've been taught around.
Can I just say, but one of the things that I naively thought, you know, like I was going home, find my whatever, near life. No, you're American. Yeah. Ooh. Not to say that, I'm just saying that because I don't know my lineage, right? You know, where I came. It's hard for, you know, we take that whole concept of being African and not king, like I said, Senegalese, Gambian, Ghanaian, whatever. You know, they have a lineage, they have a whole thing. And although we are distant relatives, you can't go into that assumption. And that was interesting. It was a good conversation.
Yeah. So thinking about these expectations, we're going to continue, but by the time we start this course, really come up with kind of the group expectations that we have for engaging with these tough conversations, or and really challenging that if you don't agree, ways that you can talk to one another and enter into dialogue about it. Your course, just very quickly, you're going to be added to the Canvas page, but just to give you the heads up now, it's a pre, during, and post course, and so we'll have some modules to do online via Canvas asynchronously before we depart. You'll have some assignments to do while you're in country, and then you'll have some reflection assignments to do while you're abroad as well. And the beginning assignments, once you guys are in the Canvas course, I know right now you're finishing up the semester, so your concentration is there. But once you're in it, when you have downtime, as much as you want to kind of pre-do before we go, the better. So even you'll have access to the stuff we're going to be reading while you're abroad. So if you want to, get ahead on some of those readings so you can just really concentrate on your time in country, you can do that. And in general, your assignments are going to ask you to reflect on something that we're doing in country and your reading. So I kind of want to see you learn to do both, right? Learn to use these academic sources and learn to use these experiential settings to talk about the coursework that we are going to be looking at. More on that coming. The travel booking, you guys are on the way about that. I'm not going to stay here, but we all should be booking travel now, and I'm going to stay after for those of you that have travel questions about booking.
How many people have y'all used the tickets?
Yep.
The same itinerary? Okay. How many people still have books?
So I'm gonna be around to talk individually with you guys that have booking questions about travel right now. And I know this is the first time that Chilean has sort of mandated all travel through this particular service, and that some agents are quicker to understand the mechanism than others. So you can always just copy me to make sure the things are getting done as you want to. A few other things I want to note before we conclude today. Think about your international communication plan. So your self plan, how does your international plan work? So some of you might be able to do a travel class and it's $10 a day. Some of you might be able to do at a very change the plan for a particular time period that allows you to text or call internationally. So figure out what your plan is, the international plan is for your phone. The other option would be to get a burner phone or to unlock your phone and get a SIM card that you put into your phone, or to buy a really cheap phone with a local number there. And we will also be using WhatsApp a lot. So if you guys have not yet downloaded WhatsApp, please do. And before we see Abby, she's making a list of everyone's cell phone. So we're going to have a WhatsApp group for us so that we can ask questions, any questions that you have of each other, of me, of Abby. We can answer them even before we depart. Are there any questions on travel apps and stuff? About communications? You guys are all going to be enrolled also into something called Global Rescue. So you can download an app called Global Rescue. And this will also give you health and safety updates. And then you can try Duolingo for your French. And is Wolof on Duolingo? I'm not sure. I haven't looked. I probably not. But at least for French, you can do some Duolingo. And then you all are going to have a travel health insurance as well that you're automatically enrolled into. So this isn't for your vaccines in the front end, but it's while you're there. And it's called ISOS. And so I'm going to provide you this PowerPoint, but you'll be able to download that app as well. And that gives you access to different health information that you might need. Finances, before you leave, be sure that you're letting your bank know.
I thought about everything.
You know?
Because maybe federal would have by now.
Yeah. Yeah, so you let your bank know that you're traveling so that they know where you are. Research the exchange rate in your host country, know the different banking options, so that you're able to use your credit card and debit card, and it's best if you have more than one in case something happens to one of your cards. So if you're in the case that you don't have more than one, that's okay, but make sure you know what your backups. You may need to bring a little extra cash in that case, but it's better to have at least 2 credit cards or debit and a credit. The exchange rate as of 2 days ago or so when I put this together, so it's 602 CFA francs to $1 US. Just so.
Is that good or bad?
Yeah, that's high. Yeah. So you'll, and just so you know, in terms of you're going to have 2 meals a day with your host family. So you have quite a lot included in this trip, but you know, if there's certain things that you like to eat, so you might be, and then your lunches, things that you like to buy. Abby, do you have suggestions and advice about how much to bring from the last time we did this trip? It's been a little while, but what are your thoughts on that?
If you're coming to shop, I would put more. But if you're coming with the basic necessities for a 2-week trip, 500 should be more. Way more.
What's the
So
situation?
shop like that. Huh? Like shop.
Yeah.
So 1,000 is $500,000 over there. So a little bit more than that. So if you want to shop. Well, you're not rich, but.
The other thing that you should, when you book your ticket, you can take a look at is what the travel weight limit is for the airplane that you're taking and how much baggage. Less, you need less, always less than what you guys think you need. I know you're saying no, but I can give you some tips on really not need much for travel.
She was so good at packing this tiny little bag. I'm like,
I'm a
She's really
pro,
good.
we can meet, I can give you, but anyway, but I think in general, you're usually allowed, you'll probably be charged for a bag. I don't know, I didn't look at yet,
Delta
but
has 2 carry-ons and then 2 check bags for 50 pounds. That's
oh, it is?
For
All right.
international? I was Yeah, international is 2 bags. Yeah, we're.
So the one that you guys took is 2 carry-ons and 2, okay, great, you guys, please, that's a lot of, you guys don't.
Is it?
You know.
Yeah.
All the way back.
Make space.
For the way back, you can have one bag, and one duffel bag, but yes.
One double bag.
One, for extra stuff, like you can take one bag and have another empty bag for stuff on the way back. In addition to suitcase.
Okay, I was like, one more bag.
Okay, so like, what should we be looking at, like, bidding or like?
I'm gonna give you guys a packing list.
Okay.
Also,
We're gonna,
will this presentation be on our campus?
yes, the presentation will be on your Canvas page. I'll give you a packing list. Insurance, no, that's finances. The insurance, again, you're gonna keep your domestic insurance, you're gonna get this travel insurance. So we've pretty much covered that. Prescriptions, if any of you guys are on medications now, you need to understand what the rules are for those to travel internationally. So some prescriptions, you may not be able to get abroad, so you need to think about bringing enough for yourself. And the other just can this medication travel? So if you're talking about like the normal things like birth control, as an example, that one travels. You don't, there's nothing that you need to worry about. But certain medications that you might be on might have restrictions that you might need a doctor's note or something to accompany it. Yes.
How do we find out if our medications are legal?
You can look on the, if you look up the
their
name
health-
of your,
their-
yeah,
okay.
health.gov,
Yeah.
the name of the medication, and put it in Senegal and just double check. Or if you're gonna need to get a prescription there, that you know how to do that. And I can one-on-one talk to you guys if you have particular questions or concerns around that. Conduct, Tulane's code of conduct applies here and there. So just, keep all those things in mind. What happens abroad does show up there. So let's, comes with you. Yeah. And all of this is outlined in those forms that you're signing when you're doing your decision document on your portal. So you can see it. Okay, I told you guys 5 and we're over 5. So next pre-departure, what we're going to do is really dive into Senegal. We're going to dive into what you all are going to learn in terms of where we're going. We're going to dive into our itinerary, and we are going to think. But for now, here are some things that you guys can start doing with self-learning. We have the next pre-departure set for 4 on the 28th. However, there have been some people that can't make it because they have a class at this time, and I'd like to see if I can bring someone into Senegal into the session. So I'd like to move that 28th to the morning, 8 a.m. in the morning.
I can't do that.
Via Zoom. So if you can't do that, then you can.
And not.
I can't do what's the date again?
It's on 28th, Friday,
It's a Thursday
at 8 o'clock in the morning.
at 8 a.m.
All right.
What about noon? Yeah, what about noon? Can you
Yeah, I'm gonna
and
record
post
it. The
again?
Zoom will be
Yeah.
better to record. So are you guys okay with that? And we can do one-on-one, so
Yeah.
those of you that can't make that.
Yeah.
But so I'm gonna switch it to 8 a.m. It's gonna be recorded, and hopefully we'll also have someone from Senegal join us, okay? And I know it's early, but it's on Zoom, so you can be in your whatever. And that way we can get it done earlier. So that's my email. And then also, this is the email of the person who is the head of the organization that's helping us organize things. And so if you have particular things, like if you're saying, if you are lactose intolerant and you really want to be sure, you have questions about that, or you have something that, we're going on a camel safari in the desert and you're like, oh, wow, I really hate sand. What can I do? What was that?
You.
You can also email. So I'm gonna wrap it up for our pre-departure today. Next pre-departure, we're really gonna be diving into Senegal and what we're doing. Your next steps are to get those SIT documents done and to get your travel booked and to get your immunizations. So immunizations, books, travel, all SIT documents done before we meet again. And then we're really diving into content next time, okay?
Okay, thank
And I'm
you.
looking, and I'm there for any other
Yeah.
questions.